A lot of Oscar buzz coming up, a lot of films coming out. How does it feel though that it's an advertisement that gets the most attention these days?
I'm so excited for everybody to see
Are you
Christy
ready
Martin.
for? There's a lot of Oscar buzz. Are you excited about everyone seeing this?
I'm just excited for Christy.
So Sydney Sweeney's movie Christie ended up flopping, and that's not really surprising to me because she built up a fan base of right-wing incel losers. And I don't know why she thought that picking up a movie about a lesbian boxer that is going through domestic violence with a man would work out and be successful with her fan base.
Sydney's story kicks off with a wild question. What's her real endgame here? Everyone's been talking nonstop, especially after that strange move where she dropped her bathwater-turned-soap deal. It looked like one of those moments where someone flashes a massive paycheck and she just shrugs, signs, and smiles. But now, things are getting way more layered than a quick money grab. Her recent choices scream strategy. She's not just chasing clout, she's rebuilding her whole image from scratch. It's like she's trying to trade in her current fan base for a brand new one, completely switching lanes like a pro who knows the game inside out. See, her original crowd came mostly from Euphoria, younger, more liberal fans who loved her wild energy. But now, she's clearly setting her sights on a totally different scene, more conservative, older, and definitely male-heavy. That shift isn't quiet. It's shouting from every post, every appearance, every move she makes. She's acting like someone who knows exactly what she's selling and who she wants to sell it to. In this era where public image is everything, Sydney's not playing around. She's trying to secure a brand new audience, and she's moving fast. When you're in the spotlight, knowing your target audience isn't a bonus. It's the entire playbook. A target audience is basically the crew most likely to buy what you're selling, so you better know everything about them. Age, gender, income, lifestyle, political mindset, nothing can be left out. Those details shape everything. Who you team up with, what kind of friends you're seen hanging around, and which projects get your name attached to them. It's all calculated, whether people admit it or not. And right now, Sydney's moves are showing a clear shift, and she's not even trying to hide it. Every decision she's made lately screams that she's flipping her image on purpose. This is where the real timeline starts lining up. Before Euphoria, Sydney Sweeney wasn't exactly a household name. Sure, she had a few roles here and there, but nothing that had people talking at the level they do now. It was Euphoria that threw her straight into the spotlight and gave her that breakout moment. That's where her fan base was born. And that crowd, they came from a show that lived and breathed modern progressive storytelling, stuff that tackled identity, social pressure, and everything in between. People even called the show woke, depending on who you asked. Most of Sydney's early supporters were women, young, plugged-in, trend-savvy women who vibed with her energy and connected with her character on screen. They didn't just like Sydney the actress, they felt like they knew her, and that made her rise even faster. Sure, there were guys who followed Sydney because they found her attractive, but they were never her main audience. They were just the background noise, not the core crowd. When you look at the kinds of campaigns she was landing, beauty, wellness, skincare, and lifestyle, it's crystal clear who those ads were for. The marketing wasn't chasing male attention. It was made for women. That locked in her original fan base, mostly progressive women who connected with her look, her energy, and that dreamy Euphoria aesthetic. But that's exactly why things started to get rocky later on. A lot of those same fans began pulling back when Sydney started making moves that didn't line up with what they thought she stood for. It all kicked off with that Dr. Squatch commercial. People roasted it online, calling it weirdly targeted and totally off-brand for her usual vibe. Then came that American Eagle ad that blew up for all the wrong reasons. It confused people even more about who Sydney was trying to be. Then came the real plot twist. Out of nowhere, she started getting public praise from major political figures. That's when her fans really started giving her the side eye. And when people online discovered she was registered as a Republican, the internet exploded. Fans who once hyped her up suddenly didn't recognize her anymore. They felt like she had turned into someone completely different. All those random moments started stacking up like puzzle pieces from a totally new picture, and her original supporters weren't sure they liked what they were seeing. Suddenly, the conversation around Sydney wasn't just about her career, it was about who she really is. When folks learned about her political registration, some even said, if that's true, then her ads make perfect sense. That's when the entire narrative flipped on its head. All of this started piling up right on top of the earlier talk floating around online about Sydney's family supposedly being linked to that whole red hat crowd. None of it happened in isolation. It all mixed together, shaping how people started watching her every next move. Everyone knows public figures are performers at the end of the day. Whether they're chasing influence, fame, or sales, they polish up a version of themselves that keeps fans locked in and spending. It's not just about staying relevant, it's about getting viewers to give their time, their attention, and especially their money. Every celebrity plays that same game, and Sydney's no exception. Now let's slide into the American Eagle situation, because this is where things started to get messy. From a pure business point of view, forget the personal opinions for a second. It's not about whether that ad was cringe, clever, or confusing. What matters in branding is impact. And that commercial, it totally missed the mark. It didn't connect with her main audience at all, and the wider public wasn't vibing with it either. She put her face, her name, and her whole personal brand on that project. And the reaction showed loud and clear that most of her day one supporters were not feeling it. Even casual viewers who weren't fans to begin with weren't impressed. When you look at it from a PR angle, the ad ended up doing the opposite of what it was supposed to. It made her seem scattered, unsure, and out of touch with the image she'd built. For someone as calculated as Sydney, that's a rough hit. Normally, after something like that, any smart public figure would step up and say something, even a short comment or light clarification to calm things down and keep the fan base from drifting away. But the silence that followed, that just made the confusion louder. Sydney had plenty of time to clear the air, even just a little, but she chose silence instead. When she finally sat down for that GQ interview and the topic came up, she brushed it off like it was nothing. Her exact tone? Basically, it was just a jeans commercial. That was it. No depth, no context, no sign that she understood how off it felt to her core audience. That moment made it seem like she truly didn't care how anyone took it. The reaction to that interview exploded online. Whether she meant it or not, the message came across loud and clear. Stop expecting me to care about this. She basically told the internet she's gonna handle things her own way and on her own timeline, not when people try to pressure her into it. And honestly, that might have been her most honest move yet. At least now, fans who don't agree with her vibe, her political stance, or the new direction she's heading in can see it plain as day and decide for themselves whether they're still riding with her. She easily could have faked an apology, thrown out some empty PR statement, or pretended she felt bad just to calm the drama. But she didn't. She stood on her decision, even if it made people mad. And that says a lot. It shows she's not trying to play pretend just to keep everyone happy. She's curating her image on purpose, making power moves instead of panic ones. Plus, her personal circle backs that up. Sydney's connected on a whole different level right now. She's dating Scooter Braun, spotted mingling in billionaire circles with people like Jeff Bezos, and leading big-budget films one after another. She's not just navigating fame, she's leveling up in real time. Sydney's not some struggling actress scrambling for a paycheck. She's locked in with major power players who can shift her entire career with one call. That alone says a lot. Every move she's making screams strategy. She's not drifting, she's pivoting. She's slowly breaking away from the image her original fan base built around her, crafting a brand new version of herself that fits a completely different crowd. It's becoming clearer with every step. She's moving away from the mostly liberal female audience that came from Euphoria and steering straight toward a more conservative, older, male-driven demographic. That's the group that actually backs the kind of projects and partnerships she's stepping into now. And let's be real, Sydney's not fumbling through this rebrand. She's executing it with precision. Everything she's doing feels intentional, calculated, and bold, which brings everything back to the big question: what's Sydney Sweeney really after? If her endgame is to win over a more conservative, male-leaning audience, then every role she picks from here on out is gonna matter a lot. Her film choices aren't just random gigs anymore. They're part of her rebranding blueprint. Look at her earlier projects, especially Euphoria. Her character was constantly styled or filmed to highlight her looks, and that definitely caught the attention of a lot of male viewers. But here's the catch. While that attention boosted her fame, it also boxed her in. It built a version of Sydney that people thought they understood. And now she's trying to rewrite that entire narrative on her own terms. That kind of fan base can be a trap. Those fans only want Sydney to stay in one narrow lane, the pretty girl lane, and nothing beyond that. They don't want to see her experiment, evolve, or take on deeper, more challenging roles. And that's the real danger. Once an actress gets boxed into that look good and stay quiet category, the clock starts ticking. The industry always moves on the moment they decide her appeal doesn't fit their current fantasy anymore. That lane comes with an expiration date, and it's not a generous one. Sure, those roles might work for her right now, but they don't build lasting stability or a real legacy. They just bring temporary hype that fades the second the next new face pops up. And that's where things get tricky, because once your main selling point becomes your looks, it turns into a non-stop performance that never lets you rest. Sydney would be expected to look flawless every single time she steps out. On camera, at events, even in random paparazzi shots. There's no room to just exist like a normal person. She can't have an off day, gain or lose a little weight, or even age naturally without people losing it online. Because the minute she steps outside the beauty standard her brand is built on, that same audience could flip on her instantly. And if the public ever decides she's not as attractive anymore, just from normal life changes, that audience won't protect her, they'll replace her. That's the harsh reality of that space. It leaves her with a brand that's fragile, high maintenance, and tough to sustain long term, especially now when she's trying to pivot toward a crowd that values aesthetics above everything else. One wrong move and that shiny image she's building could crack overnight. Everything gets risky when someone builds their whole image around their looks. The second that beauty standard shifts, even slightly, the support starts slipping away fast. There's no empathy, no patience, no second chances. People stay as long as the one thing they like is still there, and the moment that fades, they're gone without a thought. It's cold, but that's the reality of the spotlight. Back in 2022, Sydney went on Instagram Live, clearly emotional and overwhelmed, talking about how painful it was to see people calling her ugly online. And the wild part? This was years ago. She wasn't unattractive then, and she's definitely not unattractive now. But those harsh words still hit her deep, because underneath all the fame, she's human. Seeing people tear her apart over her appearance cut her in a real, personal way. Now imagine what happens to her mental state if she doubles down on chasing an audience that mainly values her looks. That's a shaky setup. It puts her under non-stop pressure to stay picture perfect at all times. A standard no one can keep up with forever. Because being labeled attractive, especially by a picky, beauty-obsessed crowd, comes with a time limit. And it's not about losing beauty, it's about the public's attention span. They always shift to the next face, the next trend, the next obsession. It's not if that shift happens, it's when. That's why the lane she's steering toward could be both powerful and dangerous. Now, looking at her career choices, Anyone But You grabbed massive attention because it was a rom-com built for women, and women showed up for it. That's the kind of project that reminded everyone where her real strength used to lie, connecting with female audiences who saw something more in her than just her looks. It was women who carried that movie, not a conservative, male-driven crowd. Anyone But You thrived because female audiences connected with it and showed up in full force. Then came Immaculate, a horror film packed with symbolism, control, religious power, and a woman fighting back against a system trying to dominate her body. The story made it crystal clear. What her character went through was wrong, disturbing, and emotionally heavy. From a conservative lens, that film's message clashed hard with traditional values. The whole narrative pushed back against the idea of submission and blind obedience. And when the character finally snaps at the end, it's not just a horror climax. It's a bold, symbolic act of refusal. She rejects everything forced onto her, taking back her power in a dramatic way that screams independence and defiance. Even without getting explicit, the film's meaning hits loud and clear. It doesn't line up with conservative ideals at all. So when you look closely at Sydney's recent projects, none of them actually support the image she seems to be chasing. Her films still appeal to women, to progressives, to horror lovers, to audiences who value autonomy, freedom, and resistance, not to the conservative, male-heavy crowd she's been aligning herself with publicly. Now, some people try to explain this away by saying those movies were all shot before her American Eagle era, before her alleged image shift even started. So maybe at the time she wasn't being strategic with her choices. Maybe she was just accepting whatever roles came her way, still figuring out her lane. But if that's true, then now that she's clearly trying to rebuild and rebrand, shouldn't her new projects start matching the audience she's trying to attract? Shouldn't her future choices start aligning with that conservative, male-leaning demographic she seems to be courting? Because if not, her whole brand direction stops making sense, and people are definitely starting to notice that. Then Sydney throws everyone a massive curveball. She signs on for Christie, a film centered on a lesbian woman stuck in a toxic marriage, and the story doesn't twist itself into something conservative audiences would be comfortable with. The character stays true to herself from beginning to end. She's a lesbian the entire time, and the movie actually treats her identity with respect, not like a plot twist or some temporary phase. That alone instantly puts Christie Miles outside the comfort zone of the demographic she's supposedly chasing. But Sydney doesn't stop there. She completely flips her signature look. No soft glam, no polished styling, no camera-ready glow. In Christie, she's visibly stronger, more muscular, rougher around the edges. Her hair's undone, her figure's different, and she intentionally looks older and more grounded on screen. It's a total transformation, one her new target audience probably never saw coming. And that's exactly what makes it wild. Because this kind of role isn't built to grab conservative, male-heavy attention. It's deep, emotional, and raw. Everything that crowd tends to scroll past. Meanwhile, Sydney stayed totally silent about the American Eagle backlash. No response during the chaos, no statement after, and when GQ asked her directly, she sidestepped the question completely. From the outside, it looks like she's unbothered, just brushing off the noise like it doesn't touch her. But behind the scenes, the story sounds totally different. Reports started surfacing that her management team was privately reaching out to reviewers who gave Christie negative coverage, allegedly asking them to tone it down or even rewrite their takes. That's a huge sign that, despite her calm front, the team does care, especially when it comes to her film reputation and how the public perceives her work. So now, the big question hits even harder. What exactly was Sydney expecting? Did she really think she could alienate her original fan base, flip her brand without warning, and still have everyone ride for her the same way afterward? Because right now, it's looking like she's stuck between two worlds. One that no longer claims her, and another that doesn't fully accept her either. So what did Sydney really expect? Did she think her original supporters would still show up and buy tickets after feeling completely pushed aside? Or did she convince herself that her recent moves were strong enough to pull in a whole new fan base overnight? Because right now, even with Hollywood struggling across the board, her numbers are dropping harder than anyone predicted. And that says way more than any excuse ever could. Sure, fewer people are hitting theaters these days, but that doesn't erase what's really happening. Some viewers aren't just skipping her films by accident. They're making a choice. They feel like Sydney's been silent about things they genuinely wanted clarity on, so now they're staying silent in return, with their wallets. And in today's industry, that kind of quiet protest hits way harder than a flood of angry comments ever will. The movie world's heating up again, massive projects, award buzz, and all eyes on the stars trying to hold their momentum. And right now, Sydney's standing at a major crossroads. Every decision she makes next will decide whether she wins her audience back or drives them even further away. This is the make or break moment for her image, her brand, and maybe even her long-term career. And with that, the breakdown comes to an end. But the conversation definitely doesn't stop here. What do you think about Sydney's moves? Do you see her rebrand actually working, or is she setting herself up for an even bigger fallout down the road? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what side you're on, and let's keep this conversation alive. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. You don't want to miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.